Hello, everybody. My name is Robbie. I am from Major League Hacking. Welcome to Local Hack Day Share. This is very, very exciting. I love Local Hack Day every time. It's so much fun. We're going to be doing an introduction to threat hunting using elastic security. And just to briefly introduce myself, I am a European coach at Major League Hacking based in the UK. I've done a bunch of other stuff, so I'm also part of a company called Hackathons UK Consulting. My proper day job is that I'm a graduate consultant with AWS. You're going to see me looking around a bit here because I've got my main screen, I've got my laptop up to the left, I've got another screen up at the top. It's it's going to be a little bit confusing, but I think we'll be okay. I am also flicking between two screens constantly with my slides and my actual screen share, so we'll see how that goes on stream. Now, before we jump into the presentation, there's one thing we all got to do, folks. We're going to do it together. I'm going to fire up a new tab and type in hackp.ac/hackwithrobbie. And it's going to bring up the registration page. Let me put that on screen for you. There you go. Head to hackpack/hackwithrobbie. Go ahead, click on and log in and register if you have not registered already. And then once you're registered, you also need to check in. So make sure you hit that check in to event button as well. Let me go ahead and do that. Once it says you are checked in, that's when you know you've checked in correctly. This is really, really important because it lets us track how many people are actually attending these sessions. Helps us come up with better sessions for you so you know what's so that we can know what's interesting to you and what is not. Okay, let me switch to my slides. There's a lot of people here saying hello in the chat. Absolutely awesome. We love to see it. Hello, everybody, wherever you're dialing in from. Just go ahead, say in the chat where you're from. I'm dialing in from the UK. I'm sure we'll have some folks from India, very popular. We might even have some from the US, East Coast, perhaps. It is a little bit early in the morning for those folks. So we're on our slides. We're going to be doing an introduction to threat hunting with elastic security. Threat hunting is, you're hunting for threats, you're hunting for security issues, and we're going to go through the whole explanation of what this actually is, and then we'll actually do some kind of hands-on, fingers on keyboard, some actual coding stuff as well, which is brilliant. Let me just go ahead and put the link for check-in in the chat as well. hackpack/hackwithrobbie. There we go. Brilliant. So as I said, my name is Robbie. I'm here to lead this session, help you learn something new. I'm a recent graduate from Durham University, and as I already said, my day job is working as a consultant for Amazon Web Services. This is MLH Localhost, Introduction to Threat Hunting Using Elastic Security. Make sure you register for Local Hack Day Share at lhd.mlh.io. Join our Discord, that's discord.mlh.io if you've not already, and do that check-in as well, hackpack/hackwithrobbie. Like I said, I know there's a few things we got to do, but it's really important that we can track how many people are attending these sessions. Today, we'll be going over a quick, welcome to MLH Localhost. We'll be doing an introduction to elastic security, also talking about getting started with the elastic stack. And then we'll be doing some capture the flag challenges. That's going to be a ton of fun. And we'll close out with a recap and some next steps. And there's also a little quiz at the end. So Major League Hacking is the global hacker community, right? It's our mission to empower hackers. We have a community of over 100,000 hackers, more than 12,000 projects created, 400 cities, and so much good stuff like that. And through Localhost, which is the workshop program within MLH, MLH is rethinking technology education to reflect how hackers like you actually learn and how fast the industry moves. Today, we'll learn an introduction to threat hunting with elastic security. One of these days, I'll be able to say that without getting my tongue twisted. We'll look at how to set up the elastic stack, which is Elastic, Logstash, and Kibana. They're the tools we'll use in this workshop. And we'll also use elastic security for SEIM to search data sources for attacks. SEIM is Security Information and Event Management. Okay. Let's talk about elastic security. So cybersecurity is a huge field, right? It includes the technologies, the process, and practices designed to protect the stuff we care about. This can mean protecting networks, devices, programs, and data from attack, damage, unauthorized access. For example, hardware network security could be physically locking your computer or server behind a door in a locked server room. With software, this is things like firewalls or using secure passwords. access protocols, all this kind of stuff. Cybersecurity is super important because no one wants to get hacked, and you always hear in the news about some big company got hacked due to they had a massive data breach, and 9 times out of 10 it's because they were not doing something correctly, right? They had an Amazon S3 bucket with public permissions, or they were not using they were storing passwords in plain text or something else horrible like that. Cybersecurity is important because when we talk about security, we have to talk about trust, right? Your data is valuable. Just think about how much of your financial and personal information is now online. If you don't trust the companies who store it, are you really going to use their products? So in 2001, hackers stole personal details of 77 million PlayStation user accounts. Now, it's a slightly scary thought that 2001 is probably before some of you viewers were born, which is a slightly terrifying thought. But fine. 2001 was a while ago, but back in 2018, a student created a phishing scheme to gain access to their school network and modify grades. Impressive, and I think we would all love to do it, but really not something you should be doing. It is illegal. Please do not actually hack. And indeed, last year, Google's login system failed, meaning users couldn't log into any Google services for an hour, which is a lot of lost business, right? If we talk about what kinds of security breaches these are, the PlayStation hack, that was a confidentiality breach, so users lost the privacy of their data. With the student phishing scheme, it was an integrity breach, so data was modified, so that you as a business you wouldn't know if that data is actually what the integrity of it is. And with Google, it was a temporary accessibility breach. Users couldn't access their own data, which is also a problem, right? You can't get into your emails, you can't see your photos, can't get into YouTube, right? All this kind of stuff. What I'm trying to emphasize here is that network security isn't always like some shady hacker in a hoodie in a dark room, breaking into a computer. Although sometimes it is, right? Sometimes it's an internal failure, it's a software breakage, or another issue like that. When we talk about security, we can group it into 3 main areas, which I think is cool. It's called CIA. I think it's such a great acronym, right? For obvious reasons. CIA refers to confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So confidentiality is talking about, can unwanted parties access the data, right? Can people access this? Availability is, can users access their data when they need to? So it's like the Google example. And integrity is, does that data remain unaltered? When we're asked about information security, confidentiality is probably what we think of because of hackers and people trying to steal information. But availability and integrity are also core principles that you have to think about and you have to prevent against. Threat detection. Okay, these security issues or the threats that we just saw, they all had a cause. So we need to have tools on hand that can help us detect these threats. Without them, security breaches can have a pretty devastating effect on user safety and trust. If you're a company and you have a data breach that gets in the news, that's going to linger for years and years and years in people's minds, right? Loads of huge examples. So we need to think about endpoint security. Any device connected to a network is an endpoint and is therefore at risk of security threats. So these endpoints could be visitors to your website or users of your software. Protecting endpoints is a feature of Elastic Security and is something we will look at in this workshop. And what are we protecting those endpoints from? Well, from malware, from denial of service attacks, hacking attempts, and more. I'm seeing a couple of people in the chat asking about where the slides are. If you go to that check-in page, hackpack/hack with Robbie, once you check in, scroll to the bottom, there is a link there to the slides. I could probably show you that if I do some fancy screen switching. So you head to that link, go down to the bottom, participant slides. There you go. Brilliant. Wow, we've got 162 people watching live. That is excellent. So we talked about, wanting to be able to investigate attacks, and ideally we want to prevent our networks from ever being attacked in the first place. Obviously, this isn't always possible. Sometimes an attack's already happened, and you don't realize until later. And then you need to figure out how that attack has happened so that you can stop it happening again. So that's what we're going to look at today, is looking at how an attack has happened and what they've actually managed to do. Logs. You're probably familiar with logs without even realizing it. If you've ever written a print statement in Python or a console.log in JavaScript or anything like that, that is a form of logging, right? It's a piece of information which tells us what's going on inside a program. If you've got a smartphone tethered to your computer or an Android phone, you can actually view the logs of the apps that are running on it. On Android, you can run ADB logs from the command line, and just Google like Android logs. You can see that. iPhones, I'm not quite so sure. There's definitely log files you can access. And you might see this when a program crashes, it says, do you want to send information to Apple or Microsoft or whatever? And you think it's completely pointless. But sending those log files to the developers is actually really important, because it's how they can see what the problem was and how they can get the information they need to protect from that issue happening in future. So in the context of networks, networks produce a lot of data. And we're talking about networks, we're talking about the internet, we're talking about an internal network between servers at a company, this kind of stuff. And every request to visit a site or serve some data will generate log data. This is generally just like a plain text file with loads and loads and loads and loads of lines of data. We'll have a look at one in a bit as well. And a website log might include information like the visitor's IP address, their time zone, which country they're coming from, and lots more things as well. Like what URL they're going to, what their closest city is, all this kind of stuff. And logs don't just come from the web, right? We talked about web logs, but any application you use generates data that we can observe. And so we want to find correlation. Correlation is the ability to find patterns across different types of logs. So there's patterns and sequences across these multiple sources of data that might help us to find our security breach. Let's look at the Elastic Stack then. The Elastic Stack is a free open source tool that developers can use to organize and more effectively search log data. Elastic builds real-time, scalable enterprise search, observability, and security solutions on a single technology stack that can be deployed to anywhere. What this means is the Elastic Stack is built to search, observe, and protect. That's using Elasticsearch, Logstash, and Kibana. We'll take a look at all three of those in the next couple of slides. So Elasticsearch is a free and open source engine to help search through massive data sets. Free and open means the products and the stack is freely available for developers to use. You don't need to pay any licensing fees or anything like that. And companies like Pfizer, who produce a COVID-19 vaccine, they use it to search through their scientific data. In fact, loads and loads and loads of companies use Elasticsearch to analyze the logs and the data that comes through. By bringing logs, metrics, and APM, this application performance monitoring, traces together at scale in a single stack, we can monitor and react to those events happening anywhere in our environments. And it's free and open as well. So APM, application performance monitoring, is a catch-all term for how we can monitor software at any stage of its use. For a website, this might be how long does it take to load, or how long does it take to make a network request, because latency can be a key metric here, right? To be focused on the user experience. You ever go to a website and it takes like ages to get anything back, and then suddenly the whole page loads? That's because it's got high latency, not good user experience. Logstash is a free and open source tool that helps to normalize and harmonize these different sources of data we've got into a more easily searchable tool and store it. And then we're going to use a tool called FileBeat as well. FileBeat's a lightweight tool and is especially appropriate if your logs come out as ready-baked JSON, which ours are. Just a couple of definitions for you. When we talk about harmonizing data, it means to bring together multiple data sources to make them cohesive. For example, you might convert JSON files into CSV files or vice versa. The point is you're taking them from different sources of different formats and put them together into one cohesive format. And then when we talk about normalizing data, this is about reducing redundant data. For example, data that's duplicated between two different sources. What we're talking about, they can come from a huge variety of sources, right? From website visits, from database access, from form inputs, web services, and the Elastic Stack harmonizes multiple sources and brings them together to make them searchable. All of these different sources might have different file types, different content, different structure. So how do we make it easy to combine all these different log formats into one searchable or browsable form? This is where Logstash comes in. And so we also have Elastic Security. Elastic Security equips analysts to prevent, detect, and respond to threats. The free and open solution delivers SIM, endpoint security, threat hunting, cloud monitoring, and more. So the intention of Elastic Security is to protect our environment. Okay, I hit you with a lot of different stuff there. Let's put it all together. So far, this has all been about for computers talking to computers, but we're humans, right? We need to be able to interact with this data and not just read a massive long JSON file, right? It's a bit much. So we're going to use a tool called Kibana. It's another free and open user interface that lets users visualize Elasticsearch data. We can display diagrams, maps, charts, and things like that, and it makes it easier to find patterns and suspicious behavior in log data. All right. The alternative would be searching through these log files individually and manually, which we don't want to do. Kibana is great because it lets you do, tracking query load times to understanding the way that requests actually flow through your apps. We'll be accessing Kibana through your web browser. Together, Elasticsearch, Logstash, Beats, and Kibana make up the Elastic Stack. Companies like Slack and Oxford University use these to store and search their network logs and other security information. Okay, so we've talked about what the Elastic Stack is. It's a bit of context for you. Let's start using it. Let's get hands-on, fingers on keyboard. We're going to work through a few steps to get set up with Elastic. We're going to create an Elastic account. We will deploy the Elastic Stack with some log data. We'll use Kibana to explore the logs, and then we'll solve some capture the flag challenges as well. So first off, we're going to head to this URL. And this is where I'm going to switch around my screen share again. And I've already forgotten what that URL was. It was mlhlocal.host/elastic, which is there for you. So let's go mlhlocal.host/elastic. It's going to bring you to this page. It's going to invite you to sign up. Now, if you have a .edu or a .ac email address, you can get a free 30-day trial. However, as I told you earlier, I'm a graduate. I no longer have a university email address, but that's okay. You can still get a free 14-day trial. And in both cases, you don't need a credit card either. So no payment info is required. You can literally just go and sign up with your email address. If you've got a university email address, use that because you get a longer free trial. But otherwise, just use a normal one. The link, if you missed it, is on the stream right now. It's mlhlocal.host/elastic. So I'm going to go and I'm going to sign up with my burner email address here, robbieburner800@gmail.com. Regular viewers will be familiar with this email address. I'm going to hit start free trial, and it's going to complain because I don't have an educational email address, but that's totally fine. I'm going to click on 14-day free trial, which is this is actually a link here. It's a little bit hidden. We'll click on that, and now I can sign up. So we'll go robbieburner800@gmail.com. I now need to generate a password. So give me a second while I actually do that. I'm going to move one password off, off the stream, and let's put it up there. Like I said, you see me looking around because I've got all these different monitors. So let's go ahead and we'll call this Elastic Cloud burner800@gmail.com. I'm literally just generating a password with my password manager. Perfect. And I'll put that link in the comments as well, just in case you missed it. It's mlhlocal.host/elastic. It's just the one on screen there, this banner in the bottom left. You head to that link, then try and sign up. It will invite you to use the 14-day free trial. Go there, choose an email address, password, click on start free trial. It already exists. Did I already make it? Did somebody beat me to it? This is what I need to check. Elastic. All right, easy peasy. We're going to go Robbie 800 plus 1. Free trial. Nice. So we are in Elastic. Our next step is to, let me check my notes here. Okay, so we're into Elastic Cloud, and we're focusing on security today. So we're going to click on a security deployment. And what this will do is we'll basically set up all those different tools we talked about earlier and deploy them all in one Elastic stack, rather than us having to deploy them all individually. We can... Sorry, I've got a bunch of screens here. That's driving me a little bit crazy. Once you have signed up, you're going to click on security, and it's going to ask us to choose some deployment settings, right? By default, it's set to Azure. As I said, I'm an AWS person, so purely based on that reason, I'm going to hit expand, click on Amazon Web Services. I'm going to change the region to London, because that's where I'm based, and we'll leave that on the latest version. It's fine. And you can just leave this on the defaults or choose this if you want. I'm also going to give it a name rather than security deployment. We'll call it security deployment MLH, just so I know that it's mine. So once you've selected security on this page, you've chosen some deployment settings. Again, you can just leave those as default if you want. Give it a name that makes sense to you, and then click on create deployment. Okay, it's now asked you for, it's now going to show a username and a password. I have no qualms about putting these on stream because they're for a random burner account. But, you know, if you do go and use these, you could potentially destroy our stream, which would be no fun for anybody. And then we'd have to register a new account. We'll just save that password. And it's super important that you do save that password at that point, because you're never going to be shown these credentials again. I recommend you download them. In my case, I've just copied them into my password manager. So I'm going to click on continue without downloading. Okay, so launching the deployment can actually take a few minutes. And the reason is because it's got all these different applications and all these tools that it's launching. So, you know, this can take a few minutes. Let's check in on the chat here, see how we're doing. So I've got the URL on the screen. Yes, you can literally just sign up, use the trial, and then delete your account when you're done. Now, this is a great way to learn. Can I get an alumni email address? So the alumni email address is offered by my university, endin.org.uk, which is not an education email address. So I used to have a .ac.uk email address, which is the academic ones in the UK. But for the alumni ones, you don't get them. And the reason for that, I think, is because, as far as I know, pretty much every service, certainly in the UK anyway, it may be different elsewhere. If you want to get student discounts somewhere, you verify it with like your AC UK email address. If they give all alumni those email addresses, then I would have student discounts for the rest of my life, which would be wonderful. But I think companies might not be too pleased about that. How else are we doing here? Thank you for sharing the link. Very much appreciated. There is a quiz as part of this module. We may or may not do it together live on stream. We'll see. Which of the server deployment options to choose? I recommend you just leave the default options. I've set mine to AWS, but it makes absolutely no difference for this workshop. Just leave it on the default and you'll be fine. Advice for newbies interested in cybersecurity. Yeah, this is a great question. Cybersecurity, I think, is actually quite a niche field. You know, there's a lot of very specific knowledge which you don't generally get in other fields. For that reason, it's a smaller field than something just like general software development or web development, right? But if you want to get into it, you know, try and find some online courses. Ethical hacking is the kind of term you want to be looking for. So if we Google ethical hacking, you know, there's loads of good resources about how to learn about what it is and how to get into it. Ethical hacking is, you know, hacking but ethically, so you're doing it for the right reasons. You're doing it for the purposes of cybersecurity and learning about how to strengthen and secure your systems. What else have we got here? If you've got a .ac email address and it's still not accepting it, it's still fine to set one up with like another email address. I've used a Gmail account. The only difference is the free trial lasts for 14 days instead of 30 days. But for the purpose of this workshop, you know, it doesn't really make much difference. In the US, I think alumni keep your edu addresses. Yeah, but you have to pay an absolute fortune for your degree. So it kind of outweighs it, right? Linode is an option as well, I think. I don't know if it's offered by Elastic, but Linode is another strong cloud provider. Like I said, I work for AWS, so I feel kind of obliged to launch it on AWS services. But realistically, like for this kind of thing, they're all the same. I think our deployment is making good progress here. I've got Kibana, but it still says creating a deployment. So let's just give that another minute. Amazon is watching. Yeah, I mean, that's the reason I'm wearing a shirt, right? Like I wouldn't normally wear a shirt for an MLH thing, but I've had courses with customers. So are there truly free and open source options here? Well, what we're doing with Elastic is Elastic just provides the full stack, right? But all the tools, are still available as free and open options. If you actually go and grab the participant slides, I think the notes include a little bit more information on that as well. You can grab that just from the check-in page, which is hackpack/hackwithrobbie. Scroll down to the bottom and you've got a link to the participant slides. Awesome, we've done some vibing. Let's go. It looks like a deployment's been created right on cue. So our next step, I think, is to open Kibana. Yes. We hit this big open Kibana button. It's going to open in a new tab. We'll wait for it to authenticate us with this cute little animation. Okay, now this is the dashboard provided by Elastic. There's a lot of kind of stuff here. Don't stress too much about it. We're going to walk through how exactly you need to do each individual bit. Okay, so this is the Kibana dashboard where we can look at our log data, but it is a little bit empty at the minute. So let's go ahead and click on Add Data up here in the top right. It's a little link to add data. Okay, now we have lots of different options here. We're going to go ahead. Which one are we choosing? Apache. Can we see that on this page somewhere? We're going for... Hold on, I got so much stuff going on here. So we've gone to add data. We just go to all. Have I missed Apache somewhere? Here it is, Apache logs, right? So you'll see there's absolutely tons of options here, right? Apache is a very, very common open source web server platform. It's actually used to host about a third of all websites on the internet, right? So like Apache is the standard. There's a ton of other options here. You can do AWS CloudWatch logs. You can monitor Azure logs from Microsoft Azure. ActiveMQ, right, is a Java message broker. But we're going to go ahead and choose Apache logs because I'm going to give you some log files which we can analyze. Once we've gone on to that, you're going to need to install this program called FileBeat. Now, the installation process is a tiny bit fiddly. It's not quite as smooth as we would like to see, but the instructions are here and we'll walk you through it. Now, there's 4 different options. You've got Mac OS, 2 versions for Linux and Windows. I'm on a Mac, so I'm going to follow the Mac instructions. The Windows instructions are pretty similar. Just walk through them slowly but surely. And if you're on Linux, you need deb or RPM, right? I presume if you're using Linux, you know which one of these you need. I'm on a Mac, so let's go ahead and copy this snippet. So I've copied that whole thing. There's 3 separate commands here. We've got a curl command, which is going to download this file, filebeat blah blah .tar.gz. Then using the tar command, we're going to actually unzip it, and then we're going to go into that directory. So I've copied this snippet. Let me go to wherever my terminal is. Here? Yeah. There we go. Here's my terminal. I'm currently in a directory called dev. So I'm just going to make another folder in here. I'm going to go make directory, and we'll call it Elastic MLH. I'm going to cd into Elastic MLH. Okay, so I've got an empty directory. I'm just going to paste in those commands from earlier. And you'll see it says 3 separate commands, but because they're on different lines, it's fine. The terminal's just going to run them one after the other. So I'll paste it, hit enter. It's going to download it. Wow, there's a ton of stuff on my screen there. I think it's now done it, and you can see we're actually inside this FileBeat directory. So if I do a pwd, you'll see I'm in elastic mlh / this file beat folder. If I do ls to list the files, here's all the stuff that was inside this this tar gz file. So all I did was I went to the add logs. I chose Apache logs. It brought up the Mac option and clicked on copy snippet, pasted it into my terminal, and it's downloaded it for me. Now this is a bit that gets a little bit slower, a little bit trickier. We're going to go ahead and edit the configuration to do that. So we need to modify this file called filebeat.yaml to set the connection information for Elastic Cloud. And this is where you need that password that was given to us earlier, and which I saved. That's how we authenticate with our Elastic Stack. Now, I could do this with Nano or Vim or something like that, but I think, honestly, the easiest solution here is probably VS Code. So let me go ahead and... Do I have VS Code open? I don't think so. Let me open up VS Code. Wait for it to load. I'll close that. Then open up in my dev folder. Wow, I've got a lot of stuff in here. Elastic MLH. So going into this filebeat folder and then filebeat.yaml. Hit open. Oh, close this Docker thing. Okay, let's do a quick recap of what we did so far. So we set up an Elastic account. Once we got into the Elastic Stack in Kibana, we clicked on security to create a security stack. Then we clicked on add data in the top right, and then we chose Apache logs, and it brought us to this page asking us to install filebeat. We copied this snippet, so this command to download, install, and go into the directory for filebeat. And that's literally all we did. So I pasted those in. If I scroll all the way up past all of this. Okay, I pasted it in. It downloaded it. It extracted it all. And that was it. All I did was I just did a pwd. All pwd does is it prints a working directory. So it just shows the current folder that you're in. You don't need to do that. I was just doing it to show that we are actually inside this folder. So now we're on to step 2, which is edit the configuration. We're modifying this file, filebeat.yaml, to set the connection information. So let me hit copy snippet again. Go across to VS Code, and here's that file that we just opened, right? Filebeat.yaml. We scroll down. Let me just check exactly where it is. I am on a Mac. Wow, there's so much. Okay, so this is a big, long file. There's a lot of stuff in here. Don't stress too much about it. You're going to go down to line 158, is what my notes say, which is here, right? So that's the section for Elastic Cloud. These settings simplify using filebeat with the Elastic Cloud, which is what we're doing, right? Cloud.elastic.co is our is this portal. It's this portal. And then we've got cloud.auth is commented out. So I'm just going to make a new line here, and I'm going to paste in what we copied from before. So that was the contents of step 2, edit the configuration, hit copy snippet, and we've got a cloud ID, which is this really long thing, and then cloud.auth, which is username : password. So within here, I'm going to change this bit where it says password, delete all of that. I'm going to grab the password I gave us earlier and paste it in. And this password is not the same as the password for your Elastic account. This is the password it showed us once we'd clicked on security and got into our Elastic Stack. So we've got our cloud ID, we've got our username, Elastic, and the password. So let me hit File, Save. And then our next step after this, when you're doing this, by the way, make sure you're really careful about the quotes and the colon. This should be the password, right? It's just alphanumeric characters, no special symbols. So you need Elastic, colon, the password, and then a closing quote. If you're on Windows and you're having trouble, you can basically open Notepad in like administrator mode, or you could just make a copy of the file and then copy that one back as well. Any other questions we've got going on here in the chat? You do not need to install Apache for this. We're just using a tool called FileBeat, which does it for us. Okay, so we've configured our FileBeat.yaml, and we're going to head back to our terminal. And I think the easiest way to do this is actually if I switch the screen share around a tiny bit. Okay, so back in our terminal window, we're going to run one of these commands to enable Apache for FileBeat. So I'm on a Mac, so I'm going to run that top command. I'll type it in and I won't hit enter until I actually switch the screen share back. But it's /FileBeat space modules space enable space Apache. We are now enabling the Apache module within FileBeat. So if I flick my screen share around again, down here in the very bottom left of my terminal, you can see I've just typed in /FileBeat modules enable Apache. We'll hit enter. And it's going to enable it. There we go. Enabled Apache. Perfect. If you're on Windows, the command is very similar. It's just filebeat.exe modules enable Apache. Make sure that's within, within the directory FileBeat. Right. Our next step after enabling Apache. Oh, this is a good one. We're going to download some mock data. So I told you I was going to hook you up with some data. I actually have another banner I can put on the screen here. This one is mlhlocal.host/elastic data. So let's go there. mlhlocal.host/elastic-data. And it's going to invite us to download this file called access logs. Let's just hit save file. And I'm going to put it in elastic mlh. And I will just put it in the top level directory. So not within FileBeat, just one level up. Save that. And now if I do ls, there's nothing here, but if I do ls ... we can see the access logs there. So ... refers to the directory above. So the directory above has a file called access logs. It's got the FileBeat directory, and it's also got the tar.gz file, which we downloaded earlier. Now, normally this data would come from a web server, and the setup would be very similar, but we've generated these access logs for you for the purpose of this workshop. And this is the data that we'll be using as our ingest source. So this is the data that will actually go into Elastic. Okay, should we have a quick look at that data? Let me go back to VS Code, hit open. Need to go up a level to Elastic MLH, grab our access logs, hit open. Wow, and it is a big, long text file. And you can see here it is truly a big, long text file. Let's see, what kind of stuff have we got here? We've got an IP address. So each row is a different log entry, right? So the first one is you've got an IP address, presumably the source IP address. Got a timestamp, so when the request was made. It's a GET request, so we're requesting data from this URL, whatever the domain is, /presentation/logstash, blah, blah, images, right? It's HTTP. We've got the response code, which is 200. Not sure what this number is. And then this is, I think, the another URL that's related, apparently. We've got the user agent. This is the kind of data that's collected in these logs, right? Lots of useful stuff. We're requesting favicons, we're requesting style sheets, all sorts of stuff, right? Like an HTML web page about how to install Windows 8. I don't know why you'd be doing that in 2020, but hey ho. So this is our log file, and we're going to actually hook this up to Elastic so we can browse it in the Kibana portal. Now let's see, what else have we got? Okay, our next step. This is actually really awesome. So we're going to go back to our terminal. And remember, all we've done is we downloaded that file. We just had a quick look at it, but we didn't change anything. So you can just download the file without even opening it in VS Code. And now we're in FileBeat. We'll do ls to see where we are. Yeah, here's the contents. Now, if we go cd modules.d, make sure that's the .d folder, not modules.d. We're now in modules.d. I do an ls. There's a bunch of files here. We care about this one, apache.yaml. And you see this is the one that's enabled. Everything else is disabled. This is why we had to enable the Apache module earlier. We're actually going to edit this file, apache.yaml. So I'm going to flick back to VS Code for this one. Hit open again. Just browse to where that was. So it's file beat modules.d apache.yaml. Open this up. Okay, now we need to make a couple of changes to this this YAML file. If I flick to slides, okay. So we need to modify this file with the path to our downloaded file location, and also change the error logs as well. So what that actually means here is we are going to access enable true. So we've got these two types of logs, right? Access logs and error logs. var.paths is currently commented out. So let's just delete the hash. We've got var.paths set up. And then the syntax is, I believe, if we're really careful here, hit tab to indent, hyphen space, and then we're going to put the path to the access logs. So if I flick back to my terminal, we're currently within modules.d, right? So let me just cd up again. I'm now back in FileBeat, ls, right? And remember, if I did an ls dot, that's where my access logs are. So I can use the command on macOS and Linux called real path. So real path / access logs. So we're going to use the real path command, reference the directory above, and then the file access logs within it. Hit enter, and it gives us the full path to that file. On Windows, there's loads of ways to get this, right? You can literally just right-click the file, go properties, and grab the full path. On Mac, this is one way to do it with real path. I think it's available on most Linux distributions as well. So we've got this path, we'll copy it, go back to VS Code, and we're going to paste it in here. So we said var.paths, and thank you, Adam, for the heads up. We're going to go var.paths, put in a space, a hyphen, and then paste in that path. And then the second bit we need to change is in the error logs. We'll set these to false. So we go enabled false. Hit save. VS Code on white. Yes, I am a staunch light theme user. Shoot me, what are you going to do? I actually find dark themes really hard to read, so I only use them in the evenings when, like, you know, it's really dark outside. Most of the time, I use light themes. Okay, let's do a quick recap of what we did to our file there, because that was definitely fiddly. So we modified our apache.yaml file, modules.d/apache.yaml, and we changed the path to the downloaded file location. So var.paths had the hyphen and then the full path to the file, and then we disabled the error logs as well. Right, next slide. More commands, exciting. So back in our terminal, let me pull this up a little bit here. Maybe I can zoom in. Might be a bit more, is that readable on screen? Oh, I'm not even sharing my screen. Let me put this. There you go, I hope that's readable. So we used real path to get the full path to it. And we're now going to type in some specific commands. On a Mac, those commands are filebeat setup, or the /filebeat space setup, followed by /filebeat space -e. And then on Windows, it's /filebeat.exe setup, and then start service filebeat. So we're on a Mac, so I'm going to use the Mac commands, which are /filebeat setup. Okay, this might take a little bit of time. It might take a couple of minutes, but that's okay. It's probably going to spit out an error at the end as well, but that's also okay. It's because we're on the free trial for Elastic. Now, I know this is a little bit complicated. If you download the participant slides, it can walk you through it as well. Essentially, we've downloaded FileBeat. We set up our credentials to access it. We've downloaded our access logs for the purpose of this workshop. And then we are going to configure FileBeat to use those access logs and report back to Kibana. Brilliant. Exactly. So Oh no, hang on, what's this error? Sunder B. So I was expecting an error, but I wasn't expecting a syntax error. Line 12, found character that cannot start any token. Just make sure that your file looks exactly like this, obviously with the path being your actual path. You don't need quotes around it or anything. You need var.paths with no hash before it, and then a new line, and then we've got 2 spaces to indent, and a dash to signify it's a list item, a space, and then the full path to the file. Probably. Spaces instead of tabs, always. Okay, this has finished its setup. This is the error I was expecting to see, setting up ML for Apache ECS. 10 errors, all empty apparently, separated by semicolons. We can just ignore this. This is not a problem. This is just because we're using the trial of Elastic in the cloud. Completely fine. We don't have full machine learning capabilities. And the second command we're going to run is, what is it? So in my case, it's file beat E. In Windows' case, it's start service file beat. If it doesn't work in the command line, you might have to use PowerShell. I'm not super familiar with Windows, but yeah. So on Mac, we're going to run /file beat space -E. It's going to spit out a bunch of stuff. Wow, it's doing a connection established. Make this a bit bigger here so I can actually read it. We got a bunch of JSON and stuff. So this looks like it's all working now, right? This is reporting to Elasticsearch. So our next step is to check that everything is actually working in Elastic. So, oh yeah, exactly. Here's the JSON we're expecting. We're going to go ahead and actually check that data in FileBeat. So we're going to go back to this page where it asked us to install FileBeat. You'll notice we've done the first step, which is actually downloading it. We've done the modifying the FileBeat YAML. We've done enabling Apache, and we've started FileBeat as well. And the same instructions are here for Windows if you need them. Enable Apache, start FileBeat. Okay, and the final step is to check the module status, check that data is received from the FileBeat Apache module. Let's click on check data. Data is successfully received. That is a win. Call it a day. Thanks for coming along. No, I'm kidding. We're going to now go and review this data in Kibana. Let's see, a couple of people here commenting in the chat. Let me check my notes. It says couldn't connect to any of the configured Elasticsearch hosts. Just make sure you've got the cloud ID and the username and password configured correctly, and the password is not the one that you created when you signed up to Elasticsearch. It's one that it generates for you when you log in. Yeah, that's totally fine. The machine learning stuff, don't worry about it. We're not doing machine learning in this session. Okay, so we've got this running. Our service is running, and we have got data successfully received from this module. Now, we've done about 49 minutes so far of setup. So we want to actually go and explore this data. Okay. So what does slides say? Slides say we now have some great data. Solid, let's dive in and explore it. So Kibana looks a little empty at first because all our data is from 2020. So actually, let me go to how do we find the data? Let me double check that. All right, yeah, we've got to click this button at the bottom. So we did the module status, we did the check data, then we go to the Apache logs dashboard. Wait for this one to load. And we'll now be in Kibana. I'll make this full screen. I don't need the terminal anymore. And this is showing us, well, it looks like it's going to show us lots of stuff with unique IPs and response codes over time, top URLs by response code, but there's nothing here, and that's because our time is set to the last 15 minutes. So we're going to click on this last 15 minutes, and it's going to switch to say 15 minutes ago to now. That's the window we're using. I'll click on 15 minutes ago. choose absolute, and we're going to go all the way back to January 2020, the 1st at midnight. So the very beginning of 2020, all the way through to now. So once you've got this set up, 1st of January 2020, not 2021, 2020, so last year through to now, and then click update. This is going to reload, and we've got a bunch of data started to come in. So we've got unique IPs, we've got response codes over time, we've got all this fantastic stuff. Oh, I'm still sharing the slides. Apologies. Good catch. Thank you. So yeah, all I did was change the timestamp here, right? So when you load the page, it's probably just going to say 15 minutes ago. Just click on the timestamp in the top right, choose absolute, go back to January 2020 to the 1st, and then choose midnight. If you can't find this page, and you're on the installation page, which I think is one of these, this one? Let's see. Right, yeah, so if you're on this Apache logs page, scroll down, you've done the check data, you've got data successfully received. We then click on this Apache logs dashboard, open this one up. It's going to load this in, and it defaults to the last 15 minutes, right? So as I was just saying, instead of last 15 minutes, we want to be able to go all the way back. So we're going to click on this once, which is going to change it to say 15 minutes ago to now. And then we'll click on the left half, and it brings up this pop-up. Then we click on absolute, and we scroll back through the months to January 2020. Choose the 1st of January, set it to midnight. And now this here says January the 1st, 2020 at 000 through till now. So once that's set, we'll click on update, and it's going to load in all the data for the relative time period, which includes these unique IPs. So it's showing us where people are actually joining our website, where they're requesting data from, which is pretty cool. You can see there's a bunch of people here in, looks like Germany, thereabouts. We've got lots of people joining from the United Kingdom, all this kind of awesome stuff. Some people from Russia and all sorts of these areas. We can see top URLs by response code. So favicon.ico is a very, very common one, which makes sense. Your browser will always request this favicon.ico as soon as you load, request to load into a website. We're loading style sheets, more style sheets. We're loading this picture of Jordan, a banner. So you can really see how interesting it is. There's all this stuff is coming through. You can see a breakdown of the browsers requesting data from the website. So we're using Firefox, Chrome, Internet Explorer, God knows why. Response codes over time. That's a 200. That's a 200 as well. Lots of good stuff here. What else have we got going on in the chat? For the path to the files, yeah, you want an absolute path. So in my case, it's this. So it's from my system root /users Robbie dev. On Windows, it's probably C : users / whatever. For the slides, if you head to the check-in URL, the one that's in the overlay on the screen at the bottom, hackpack/hack with Robbie, and then scroll down to the very bottom of that page, you've got these slides here. So you can just open that up. Right, so now we're on this page in Elastic. We've got all this data. Elastic has analyzed it for us, and we can explore it using Kibana. Let's go in and keep exploring. We're actually going to... what are we going to do next? All right, so in the next few slides, we'll take a look at a tour of the dashboard. So make sure you set that time to absolute, the 1st of January 2020. If you can't see any data, then you probably haven't set the time correctly. So make sure you set it to January the 1st, 2020 through till now, and hit on update or refresh. And if you still can't see anything for some reason, the other thing you can do is, where is the data sources? Do you see data sources on the screen somewhere? Edit. One of these somewhere, you can make sure it's using the right data sources. Let me just reload this page. This portal is really powerful. It allows you to do a bunch of awesome stuff in terms of like analyzing the data, but because it's powerful, it also means sometimes it's a little bit of a headache trying to get it working. In our case, we've got this data showing up. We've set our timestamp. I recommend you make sure the timestamp is set correctly. And somewhere on this page, if you keep digging, you'll find it. There's an option for data sources. Just make sure you're including the file beat data source in there. Okay, so next slide, we're saying, I have missed something. I've clearly missed something here. I missed a key step. So we're on this dashboard page. We'll click on the hamburger in the top left. Go down in security and click on overview. That brings us to this page. Right, this is where your data sources is. This is why I couldn't find it. Wait for this to load, and it's showing nothing. But that's again because our time is not correctly set. It's still set to last 24 hours. So I'll go change that to absolute, put it back to January 2020 at midnight, update. And if we scroll down, right, now we can see some events and stuff going on. It looks like a lot happened on the 14th of May or thereabouts. If we actually click on hosts, we're going to see one host. And the host is my computer. It's me, which is really awesome. You can see here, host name, Robbie MacBook Pro. That is the name of my computer. And that's because our computer is the Apache server in this situation. So rather than running FileBeat on your own personal server in a real world deployment, you would install it on your on the actual server, the web server you're using. So we're on this host tab. We'll scroll to the bottom and we'll click on untitled timeline. And once we're in here, it's going to bring us to this timeline analyzer. Tell you what, let me just jump back quite a few pages just to make sure everybody is still up to date with where we're at. Let me go back a little bit. Okay, so we got to this page, right? We set the timestamp to the 1st of January 2020. And then we click on the hamburger in the top left. And we go scroll down underneath security. We're going to overview. And then under overview, we're going to set our timestamp to 1st of January 2020 through till now. And then we'll click on hosts. And within hosts, you will see this one host, which is my computer, or in your case, it'll be your computer, right? And then click on untitled timeline. Okay, once we're in untitled timeline, we are going to, what are we going to do? Bear with me. Okay, so we've got to our timeline, and we're going to go ahead and click on Add Field. The field is going to be host.hostname. So that was the name of my computer, and I know that mine was Robbie-MBP. I wonder if you can actually see yours in the terminal. Is that a thing? Hostname. There you go. Yeah, if you just run the hostname command, it'll give you that as well. Let me go back to FileBeat. Okay, so we're now finding all the events from my host, from my computer. Hostname Robbie-MBP. And we know this is working because all the logs are now visible with this from this host. We can expand each of these logs. We can actually see that those logs contain a bunch of different fields. So you remember how we looked at it in VS Code and it was just one long line of loads of stuff? And we can actually see it here in a bit more of a meaningful way. With the timestamp, we can see the host name. We can see, if we scroll down, we can see it was Apache. We can see the host name and IP address. Keep going. We can see where the log file path is. We can see the source address. This is really interesting. We can see the source as an organization name. We can see their location. We can see their user agent, right? There's loads and loads of data that's collected in these logs, which is really useful for us when we're trying to actually browse these logs in the context of security, when we're trying to find out, who's potentially accessed our our system or broken into our system, having this data available is really important in terms of being able to analyze that. Okay, so we just had a look at the source fields. Now, if we wanted to find all requests from a particular source, we can actually just drag it into, let's say we want all requests just from the source. We can drag the IP address up into this query box. And once it adds that, let me try that again. I'll put it here we go, in the bracket. It's now going to filter by just request from this source IP once I remove the hostname bit. Nice, and it's just showing the request from that IP address. This is really powerful because we can actually chain together all sorts of filters with AND logic and OR logic and stuff. You could do show me data where the user is from the UK or from France, or you could do show me data where the user is from the United States and they were using Google Chrome, for example. So this is a great portal to get onto. If you manage to get into it, please have an explore, have a look around. We're going to move on to using what's called Kibana query language. Now, Kibana query language is Kibana's language for querying the data that we've got here. So kind of in the same vein that you've got SQL for databases, Kibana query language is an excellent way of processing this data, just selecting exactly what we want. Now we're going to actually get onto some practical technical stuff. So if you've been following so far and you've managed to get this far, that is amazing because we've done a bunch of fiddly stuff. If you need some help, head to hackpack/hackwithrobbie, scroll down to the bottom of the page, grab the participant slides, and do follow along at your own pace. Now we're going to do some capture the flags. Okie dokie. So capture the flags are tons of fun, right? Now that we've got our log files, we can put them to use. Capture the flags are a really great way to test your skills. And in cybersecurity challenges, they're often used. You do see lots of capture the flags, a little bit like hackathons, right? There are loads of them. Now, in our capture the flags, we're going to hide text flags amongst these log files for you to find. And a flag is literally just like, our text flags are literally just a certain bit of text, which is, you found the flag, you found the important part, the goal, the treasure of the capture the flag. Now to do this, you're going to head to challenges.mlh.io and click on the login button. And we're going to work through this, and I will do it live for you as well in a demo. Okay, so new tab, challenges.mlh.io. Bringing us up to this page. Let's click on login. I've already got an account, so I will do a sign in now. Sign in with my MLH. Okay, just signed in. We scroll down and hit on Elastic Security Challenge. These are not the US Air Force or BlackRock ones. These are Elastic, and these are pretty new ones actually, which is really awesome. Now you'll see I've already solved them, but we will do them again. So let's click on the first one, which is unauthorized access. Okay, so the challenge is as such. Your team detected unauthorized access to employee-only resources, 01:04 a.m. server time on May the 18th. So you need to find out what happened, use Elastic to solve the challenge, and find the flag. Now we're going to walk through this together rather than just sitting and letting you do it, because this is a great one for me to give you a demo of how you can use the platform. And then after that, we'll look at some more capture the flag challenges. If you do not want to see the result, now is your time to mute Twitch for a couple of minutes. So let me switch back to my proper screen share. Go back to Kibana. Now we are looking for, what was it said on the slides? It said, your team detected unauthorized access to employee-only resources at 01:04 a.m. on the 18th. So we need to do like a search for time, right? So let me switch back to the screen share. We'll remove this source IP filter. We don't need that anymore. I will add back actually the hostname one. Host.hostname is Robbie MacBook Pro. This is just the name of your computer, right? It's going to load. And then we're going to use our timestamp filter, I think is the best way to do this. And the specific time we're looking for is 0104 on May the 18th. So we'll scroll forward to May the 18th. This is 2020, by the way. And the time was 01, rather than 00, it was 04. So we'll hit enter, update. Okay, and if I just close these event details, you can get those back just by clicking on this little arrow with the event details. Let's have a look what we've got on here. We've got some requests. And if we click on some of them, I actually don't see anything for 0104. We switch back the timestamp. Right. Got some stuff from 0105, but nothing from 0104. And I think the reason for this is the worst reason is time zones, right? Time zones cause so many problems. And worst of all, even worse than time zones, we have a daylight savings time problem. So the UK and indeed much of the rest of Europe has just switched into summertime. So the UK is no longer on GMT. It's now on GMT +1, which I always find interesting given that GMT, Greenwich Mean Time, is based on Greenwich in the UK. But the UK is 1 hour ahead of its own time zone. So we're going to have to account for that. These timestamps are all in the logs. They'll be recorded in UTC. The server is in UTC, but we're browsing this, so we're seeing it in UK time. So if I just go and I Google difference from UTC, there you go. You'll see here London is 1 hour ahead of Coordinated Universal Time. If you're in India, you're probably 4.5 hours ahead. 5.5. If you're in New York, you'll be a few hours behind. Go to Google, find out how far ahead you are. In our case, we're 1 hour ahead. So I'm going to go ahead and change the time rather than 0104 to 0204. We'll click on update. Nice. So now we can see this request to 0204, right? That's what the challenge told us we have to deal with. We need to find out what happened and find the flag. So let's open up this event and look in the event details that come up. So we've got a timestamp. There's all the stuff we saw before. Let's see if we can work out what they actually did, what the hackers did. It's my host IP, host name, referrer, log file. Oh, look. You see this /admin/flag, your first one. And I think here in url.original, we have found our flag, your first one. So what you can do if you're following along is head back to that challenges page. I've already solved it, but just go ahead and put the flag, your first one, in here. Just the words, your first one, like that. And you will have solved the challenge. Congratulations, that is the first challenge. Really awesome to see that. Shall we jump onto some harder stuff? Because in this one, all we did was sort by, basically put a time filter on and then sort by time. Let's jump onto something more difficult. Okay, actually, let's just flick through that solution once again. So we said, we'll set the time to May the 18th, 2020 at 0104, the time of the hack, and we sorted the timestamp column so the May 18th dates were first. And then, we found the time was listed in our time zone, not the servers, which was a really difficult one. So instead, we have a 1 hour time difference because I'm in the UK. If you're in the USA, you'll be a few hours behind. In Asia, you're a few hours ahead. So just account for that, adjust the time zone, and then in url.original, in the details, we found the flag is your first one. How are we doing here in the chat? Can you post the links for the challenge page and slides? The slides are just, let's see, https://hackp.ac hack with Robbie. You have to check in and then scroll to the bottom and click on the link for the slides. The challenge is just challenges.mlh.io. There we go. I posted those on Twitch. So what we found is that our attacker accessed the admin path, and normally that requires a username and password to access, which is a bit suspicious. Usually when attackers, trying to get hold of secure files, there's a bunch of different ways they can do it, but it typically involves tricking that authentication process in some way. If we think about how those hackers could access admin resources, they might find out the actual password if someone wrote it on a Post-it note and stuck it to their computer monitor. They might have brute forced it, right? Just try out millions and millions of different combinations using software. Or they might have skipped the password, authentication process entirely using SQL injection, which we'll look at in the next challenge. Okay, so we found that this hacker was doing something suspicious. They went to admin, including the flag. Now, have they done something else? So the challenge is, has the same IP address done anything else malicious? So the way we're going to do that is by searching for that IP address using KQL and see what else they did. So if we switch back to Kibana, let's put this timestamp back to the very beginning, 1st of May, 1st of January, make sure we haven't missed anything. Okay, and update that. I'm going to leave this event details open because we're going to need to grab the IP address in a minute. And if we find, where is it, source.ip? There we go, source.ip. We'll drag that, put that into here as an and. Oh, so we've got two things that they've done. This one at 0204, this was the one we just saw, right? And then the other thing they appear to have done is actually happened a day before. If we click on the event details for this one, let's see what they did. Maybe we'll check the URL. Scroll down, and we got URL.original, right? So they went to /admin/plugins/easy password recovery. Action equals login and auth equals, and then whatever is going on here, or something. Bit of a challenging one, but let's see if we can actually do something with this. This looks like SQL injection, which I'll talk about in just a second, and this looks like base 64. The two equal signs at the end are a dead giveaway. Can we copy this? Again, copy to clipboard. The first thing we're going to do is I'm going to head to Google and type in URL decoder. And what you find with URLs is that you can't usually have special characters in them, which is why you get all these percent stuff going on. Those are all encoded characters. So if I paste in that URL, just grab that bit, and then click on decode. Okay, so what that's done is it's changed the bit here to or space 1 equals 1 space dash dash and u equals this. So what's saying here is our auth is some SQL injection and our username is this thing. Now, as some of you have identified, it mentions base64decode.org. So if we fire up base64decode.org, zoom in a bit, let's go back and grab it, and just the username is the base64 bit, right? Paste that in, click on decode. We got, oh, that looks like another flag. Flag, you got another. So just go and put you got another into the second challenge, which is what else did they do? That is our second challenge completed. So they did some SQL injection with auth with or1 equals 1. This is SQL injection is kind of a weird one, right? It's about tricking the SQL statement to start accepting like user input as an actual command, which is definitely not a good idea. Let's just walk through the solution for that one again, just with the slides. So we said, has the same IP done anything malicious? Well, we dragged that IP field into the query so we can see all logs that came from the same IP address, and we moved the date back to January 2020, right? When we did that, we found a second log. So we looked at the second entry. The referrer link is a bit of a hint, as you already noticed with the base 64 thing. But URL.original is the weird one, right? There's some base 64 in there. So if we head to base64decode.org and add part of the URL, it gives us back the flag, which is exactly what we just did, right? Yes, you're correct. It's basically tricking the auth system to always return true, because 1 equals 1 is clearly a true statement. Okay, let's move on to our third capture the flag. So we detected an attack and we know how they did it. But the thing is, were they the first person to try or just the first person to get caught? Has anyone else tried the same attack? This is where we need to go and do a little bit more digging using some of the filters in Kibana to work out how or what kind of stuff they may have done and who else has done stuff like this. So let's go back to Kibana. Okay, this was the URL, so I'm going to grab, let's grab all of that, a bit without the username, and we'll head back to Kibana. Now we're going to get a bit more hardcore with the filtering. So we'll close out the event details. We'll remove the source IP filter. Instead, we're going to start using some KQL, which is Kibana query language. We want to filter based on that URL, so we'll go url.original equals. We'll paste in that bit, admin plugins, easy password recovery, and u equals. And then if I put an asterisk on the end, that's a wildcard. So as I search for this, we get absolutely nothing back. Oh, sorry, I've captured too much of that there. We just want up to the easy password recovery bit with an asterisk on the end. So who else has used that URL? So this is the one we just looked at with the 9.1.119, but there was also this one. Someone else hit easy password recovery, which sounds like a bit of a bit of an interesting URL. We'll view the details for this one. Scroll down, and we can see that here's their source IP, right? So that's clearly a different person or someone else using a different IP address anyway. Referrer was again base64decode.org. And then here is the URL. So if we copy this URL again, we'll head to our URL decoder, paste it in, just the URL bit, on decode, and it's the same thing. Someone else has used or 1 equals 1 to bypass our authentication. We'll grab this U bit on the end, starts with a Z, go to base64 decoder, paste this one in, hit decode. There is our third and final flag last one. So if you head back to your MLH challenges, go to the next challenge, you could put in the flag for last one. That is how you can do analysis with Kibana of threat security. Such original flag names. Fantastic, right? Yeah, but you would never have guessed them, would you? So let's walk through that solution once again, just following the slides so you've got all the information. So we were looking into, has anyone else tried the same attack? We used KQL to search for other attacks on the URL. So the asterisk is a wildcard, so we removed that IP address filter, and then we set url.original to admin plugins, easy password recovery, and then an asterisk to look for partial matches. We found a second log, and we had a look at it, and it's got that same weird URL encoding of or 1 equals 1, assigned as SQL injection. And SQL injection, is a common attack vector in network security. It's usually not much of an issue these days, but if you have a particularly poorly built application, some people can still use it. And when I say attack vector, I mean a path for a hacker to do something malicious. Web plugs like login systems can be an effective attack vector for hackers because they can introduce security flaws. So we decoded the SQL part of the URL from base64, and we got flag last one. Nice. Go and put that in challenges.mlh.io, and you got it. All right, folks, thank you so much for doing the challenges with me. I know it's been a little bit tricky, but we're going to do a quick wrap up now. We'll look at our next steps. So a quick recap. SIM is security information and event management. Is a really key part of elastic security and just security in general, right? When you've got you're involving preventative security measures, you're analyzing logs, you're having all this data, and you need to be able to process it and analyze it and manage it. Elastic security is a free and open solution to equip analysts in preventing, detecting, responding to threats via SIM, endpoint security we talked about, threat hunting, cloud monitoring, and more. And this is all being run in the cloud, right? That's the stuff we did earlier when we selected AWS. In terms of next steps, try adding some of your own device logs to your Elasticsearch stack. If you want to get involved in this, this is a great way to continue developing your skills. You can also use metric beat as a method of intrusion detection. Metric beat is a lightweight shipper that you can install on your servers to periodically collect metrics from the operating system and from the services running on the server. You can also create some rules in Elastic to proactively flag potentially malicious behavior. All right, we've created a quick quiz. I would encourage you to do this yourself, but if you are lazy and you just want the answers because your brain is a baked potato, we can go through and do that quiz together live on stream. Let me just quickly put this banner up for you. mlhlocal.host/quiz. So we will open up a new tab, mlhlocal.host/quiz. Okay, which MLH localhost event did you attend? If we scroll to the very bottom of this fantastic user interface dropdown, you'll see Introduction to Threat Hunting with Elastic Security. What school or organization? Well, it was actually Major League Hacking. We did it this time around. What is the email address? I actually can't remember, so I'm just going to put robbieburner800@gmail.com. Okay. Thanks for attending MLH localhost Introduction to Threat Hunting with Elastic Security. Let's take this quick quiz for those of you who were a little bit overwhelmed because there's some intense security stuff in here. But these are the kind of tools that professionals use, right, when they're analyzing attacks from threats. Okay, first question. What is the CIA triad in security? It's not Central Intelligence Agency. It's not the US spy company. We're actually talking about confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Confidentiality is about making sure that only the right people have access to the data. Integrity is ensuring that the data is what it should be and that no one's compromised it. And availability is about actually having access to that data. What is the purpose of a SIM? Is it to allow organizations to detect and investigate incidents? Is it to collect data so organizations can understand their users? Or is it to search through any big data set? The answer here, of course, is the first one, to allow organizations to detect and investigate incidents. The second one would just be about collecting data generally. SIM is about security stuff. Same here. It's not about any big data set. It's about the security stuff. So we'll go for this first one. How would you typically use a SIM? Select all that apply. Would you determine if other people have used an attack vector? Yes, we definitely did that. Find out how a security breach happened? Absolutely, we saw evidence of that. Detect hacking attempts as they occur? Well, yes. This is what a SIM could be used for as well. In Kibana, even though we didn't look at it today, you can definitely set up those rules like I talked about and detect those attempts as they occur. Get a notification as soon as someone tries a SQL injection attack. Find out information about hackers. Absolutely. We can get their IP address, their city, all this kind of stuff. And collaborate with your team on security issues. Again, doing this in the cloud is a great way to have everybody have access to this platform and you can collaborate. So I think it's actually all 5 of these. The link is on screen, mlhlocal.host/quiz, but if you need that in the chat, it is right here. The posts. There you go. Okay, let's click on next here. And then this is just a general survey bit. Before this workshop, had you heard of Elastic? I'm actually going to say yes, because I had practiced this workshop beforehand. Had you ever used it? Technically, yes. On a scale of 0 to 10, I'm going to hit it with a strong 10 because I think they have a solid user interface. They've got some great stuff here for analyzing tools. Tell you what, let's knock it down to a 9 because it's a little bit clunky and overcomplicated, but there is some good stuff here. What outstanding questions do you have about Elastic? In this case, I'm going to skip this one. Any features of Elastic you want to investigate further? Would you like to receive an email from Elastic to learn about a more advanced capture the flag? That could be a lot of fun. We'll skip that one for now. All done with the quiz. A few questions about localhost. And you get your quiz score at the end of the survey. If you complete both the quiz and the survey, you get entered into a raffle to win an exclusive MLH t-shirt at the end of the month. How likely is it you would recommend Major League Hacking to a friend or colleague? Strong 10, I work here, it's great. How likely is it would you recommend MLH local host events to a friend or colleague? Strong 10, I ran it, it was amazing. Click on next. What part of the workshop was the most helpful or interesting? These are actually required text fields because we really do need this information from you. In my case, I'm going to say capture the flags. Did any part of the workshop not work or not make sense? I think we could say that I actually think the installation process or file beat is clunky a little bit. Would you like to opt in to receiving a bi-weekly local host and hackathon newsletter? I'm going to click no because I've already got 2 email addresses signed up to it, and I do not need a third one signed up to it. What school or organization hosted this event? Just Major League Hacking. Anything else you'd like to tell us? I ran this workshop at Local Hack Day Share, and it was awesome. Next. I got 7 out of 7, 100% in the quiz. Fantastic. Confidentiality, integrity, availability, to allow organizations to detect and investigate incidents. How would you use a SIM? All 5 of these options. And that's it. That's been absolutely awesome. It's been a ton of fun following along with all of you folks and doing this together. I really enjoyed it. I think I would love to do more security stuff in future, and I hope you would too, because I think it's a really great way to get hands-on with this stuff and learn about, how you can learn about making your systems more secure. Anything else I need to add here from these slides? That is the last slide. Perfect. Well, thank you so much for coming, everybody. It's been a ton of fun. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please head to hackpack/hackwithrobbie to check in if you've not already. And if you go to that URL, it's the little banner at the bottom of Twitch just scrolling along right now. Go down, you can get the slides as well, so you can follow along with what we did. And if you're on a Mac, you may find that this is still running in your terminal. Just go ahead, hit Control-C to stop that, and you're all fine. Thank you so much. It's been a ton of fun and a pleasure to be your host today. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow for more Local Hack Day Share stuff. Thanks a lot, folks. Bye-bye.